Hey, what's going on, Notre Dame fans? I'm Mike Singer at blueandgold.com, joined by Jon McNamara over at badgerblitz.com, the Wisconsin rival site. Jon covers the Badgers and also covers recruiting, football recruiting. So he knows Jack Coan from when he was a high school senior back in 2016 to up through his football playing days. So, of course, with Wisconsin. So we'll start with him as a recruit back in the class of 2017, ranked as a four-star prospect, number 241 overall player, number 13 pro-style prospect. This is all per Rivals. Held offers from the likes of course, Wisconsin, Michigan, Nebraska, West Virginia, close to 20 offers. So what do you remember about covering him as a recruit, Jon, and what kind of young man he was and then how he looked on tape?
Yeah, with Jack Coan, he was, the first four-star kid that Wisconsin had signed, I think, since the Rivals.com era, and it kind of started this uptick in recruiting at the quarterback position that Wisconsin's had over the last handful of years. A big part of that's been John Budmeyer, who recruited Jack Coan to Wisconsin, also recruited Graham Mertz, Deacon Hill in this class. So, it was kind of a good sign of Wisconsin's recruiting at that position, and kind of a sign that John Budmeyer had a pretty bright career coming up at Wisconsin. But, like you mentioned, the schools that have offered, Nebraska was there, Miami was there, Northwestern was a big school that was involved in his recruitment. So, Wisconsin got him on campus early, did that evaluation early, and secured a commitment early from him. And he was a mix for playing time right away as a true freshman. So he was a big time get for Wisconsin, that 2017 recruiting class.
And then looking at him as a player, let's go ahead and see what we have here. 2019 started all 14 games for Wisconsin, 236 completions, 339 attempts, 2,727 yards, 18 touchdowns, 5 picks, as you mentioned, even played in his true freshman season there in 2017. Also had 93 attempts for 515 yards, 5 touchdowns, 3 picks in 2018. So I guess let's kind of get into this past season. I've had Notre Dame fans be like, hey, why are we taking this quarterback who couldn't even start at Wisconsin this season? I know that's not really the truth of the matter, though.
No, not at all. Jack Coan went into this spring, although there wasn't a spring for Wisconsin. They didn't have a spring camp. Went into the fall as Wisconsin starting quarterback, injured his foot, went down, and was out for multiple weeks. So, Jack Coan was absolutely Wisconsin's top quarterback on the roster. I think you saw why that was the case as Wisconsin's season unfolded this year. And the big thing I want to go back to last year, those 5 interceptions. I mean, he was excellent with the ball. Rarely ever turned the ball over. Then you go into this year, you see Wisconsin and the struggles that Graham Mertz had in his redshirt freshman season. Turning the ball over with a few fumbles, a couple interceptions too. And then you kind of look back at last year, you say, well, hey, Jack Coan was really good and efficient with not turning the ball over in his 2019 season. So I think that was maybe the biggest thing that stuck out. But like you talked about, Mike, he was quarterback one here until he got injured. So it's not like, Graham Mertz passed him up on the depth chart. He was unhappy and then he decided to transfer. Had he been healthy, he was going to be Wisconsin's quarterback this season. And, expectations were very high for him.
So Coan listed at about 6'3", 220. He's not like a statue in the pocket. He's not the most mobile guy. You can move a little bit. It's going to be a lot different than what Notre Dame's had in Ian Book, who is shorter, right around 6 foot, and is an escape artist in the pocket. So what can you tell us about Jack Coan, the quarterback?
Yeah, don't expect a whole lot of scrambling or a guy that's going to, get you 4 or 5 yards on 3rd and 3, scrambling in the pocket when stuff breaks down. Although he is athletic. He's not a statue back there, but, he's very much of a pro-style quarterback. Excellent command of the offense. Like I talked about earlier, he makes the right throws. He makes the right decisions. He'll throw it away when he needs to. Not the strongest arm, in college football, but, he can make the majority of the throws there, and a pretty accurate guy. And I think the big thing, he's played in some big-time games for Wisconsin. He's played in the Rose Bowl. He's played in the Big Ten championship game. So I think in the position where Notre Dame is right now, where you're trying to, bridge the gap from Ian Book into the future of the program at that position, I don't know if it gets much bigger than Jack Coan right now this year because he's bringing that experience. He's a proven winner, and I think he's going to be a really good addition for Notre Dame.
How will he kind of be remembered at Wisconsin? And not only that, but like in terms of the fan base, how does the fan base feel kind of about Jack Coan? Is he like a beloved guy? Is he someone they're like, man, glad he's gone? Like, what's the kind of the feeling there? And you think when Wisconsin media like yourself and fans kind of look back at Jack Coan's career with the Badgers?
That's a good question. I'll start first with Paul Chryst just kind of gushed about him throughout the fall. When he was hurt and he was attempting to get back. We were in a Zoom meeting with Paul Chryst one day, and they said, is Jack Coan going to take on some, kind of this, coach role at Wisconsin? He said, no. I mean, Jack Coan's a leader on this team as a player, and he just kind of went on and on. And Paul Chryst isn't a guy who kind of gushes about guys. So to see, the emotion from him, having a starting quarterback go down and knowing what this season meant to Jack Coan and how difficult that was. So from the locker room and from the coaching staff at Wisconsin, I mean, he was highly respected. And he was very well liked. From the fan base, I think the Jack Coan years at Wisconsin, although they were kind of brief, there were some really good times, and he was better, I guess overall body of work than Alex Hornibrook was prior to him. Really what it came down to is, look, you either get Jack Coan back next year at Wisconsin or you sacrifice the future of Graham Mertz. And I think that was a really difficult decision for the coaching staff, although they didn't say, hey, look, you got to go because we're picking Graham Mertz. But I think Jack Coan looked at it and said, I think that Graham Mertz is the future of this program, and I want to continue to play, and I think I can play at a high level. I'm going to find a new home. So I don't think there's bad blood there. Again, like I said, he was very well liked in that locker room, well respected. He was a leader of this team. I think he's going to go out a leader of this team. Like I said, I don't know if you ever transfer on great terms because there's a reason why you want to transfer. But I think he's leaving on it as good of terms as you could for a guy that you're going to be probably playing against next year at Soldier Field.
And we will touch on that in just a minute. So you covered him as a recruit. You got to interview him throughout his time at Wisconsin. What are your thoughts on him as a young man? Like what kind of person is Jack Coan? You've touched on just the leadership qualities, but from what I've gathered since Notre Dame's picked him up, it just seems like a total football junkie, and that he like that's pretty much it. There's no hobbies. It's just football.
Yeah, he's very kind of cut and dry, straight to the point. Not the best interview in the world. I'm sure, Mike, you've talked to guys who, they give you excellent quotes. I mean, he's kind of coach speak in that way, but that's not a knock on him. That's not anything that he's doing wrong. But what was interesting, though, this offseason, with the activity that was going on in Wisconsin's campus, just, away from football, the things that were going on in the world, he went and he spoke, and he was kind of the voice of the football team with all the issues that were going on, on campus and, like I said, across the country. And he was someone who went out and spoke, and that I think was a little bit out of his comfort zone, but I think that was the next step with him in terms of being a leader, not only on that football team, but also on that campus, and someone who spoke for the locker room and the football guys at Wisconsin. So, as I say that, then he goes in the season and gets hurt. So you didn't really get to see that next step that I think a lot of people assumed Jack Coan was going to take. 2019 was his first full season as a starter. And then, you would imagine that you take another big jump there. So, good guy. Like you said, he's a football guy. He's not going to give you the big sound bite. He's not going to go and say, hey, we're going to run up, 40 points on the next opponent. He's not going to put that locker room material out there. So he's kind of straightforward, gives you that coach speak. But look, he's a good football player, and I really like that kid for Notre Dame.
Yeah, seems like someone who's kind of that perfect bridge from Ian Book to the future, like you mentioned earlier. September 25th, Notre Dame, Wisconsin, Soldier Field. Of course, the game in Lambeau this year wasn't able to happen. That would have been, quite the game. I was personally wanting to come up for that one myself. As from the Wisconsin side, what will it feel for you and the fan base, kind of seeing Jack Coan trot out there with, I would guess Notre Dame is the home team that game. So, come out with, blue jerseys and hopefully no green that game, but, gold helmets and, how will that be? And what are kind of your early thoughts about that game?
Yeah, I mean, if you were asked Wisconsin fans, what's the one team that you want to play above any other team, and it's probably Notre Dame, and it's probably not even close. So just getting a chance to play Notre Dame, I think, has been huge and something that this fan base has been dying to see. So, I mean, putting on top of that your former quarterback lining up for them, it's an amazing storyline. Because honestly, it's the game that this fan base has really wanted to see. You couldn't have set it up better at two venues like Soldier Field and Lambeau. So to add this on there, I don't know if Wisconsin fans have kind of processed that yet. I've had some friends, they reach out to me, a lot of fans saying, well, is Ian Book really gone? Does he know that, Jack Coan's coming in? I said, yeah, I mean, Book's gone and Jack Coan's going to be that guy. I don't think you make this move, saying, wondering if, hey, I wonder if someone's going to beat me out. I think Jack Coan's walking in there. Hey, I'm QB1 and this is going to be my job. And I'm going to get a chance to play Wisconsin. I'm sure that, wasn't the factor that led to his decision, but I think it was a nice kind of cherry on top to say, hey, look, I can go out and beat my former team and make them, kind of regret this decision. Although I don't know if it was necessarily, cut and dry decision, but
Sure.
Yeah, it's an amazing storyline for a game that a lot of people are really excited about.
Yeah, just this past season, John, Notre Dame played at Boston College. Phil Dracovic was Notre Dame's backup
Yeah.
quarterback, and so Notre Dame's gonna, kind of be on the other side of that with Jack Coan playing his former team. Of course, he was one time committed to Notre Dame on lacrosse scholarship. So yeah, that will be a very interesting game. Might I add, this is not to get too off topic, but Notre Dame has not signed an offensive lineman from Wisconsin in like 18 years. Or I think just player from Wisconsin in general, not even an offensive lineman. So that, is kind of another interesting storyline of like Notre Dame going in. It would have been even better to Lambeau, obviously, with where that is located. But, even playing Wisconsin, kind of another interesting storyline there, John.
Yeah, and recruiting fans who follow your site, who follow our site, Wisconsin, Notre Dame have went head to head with a lot of kids. Notre Dame has come out on top for a lot of them.
But
A lot
not
of
in
those kids from that.
Wisconsin's backyard. Wisconsin
Well,
wins
yeah, I
those.
mean, unless they're from inside the state, a lot of kids from Illinois, Wisconsin, Notre Dame are in their top list. They end up at Notre Dame. So recruiting wise, those two schools seem to go and kind of seek out a common target or a lot of familiar targets, have Wisconsin offers, have Notre Dame offers. So I think that kind of adds to some of the appeal as well. And then, if you look at that 2022 recruiting class, I mean, this could be the year where Notre Dame plucks someone from inside the state. So I think that, just another interesting storyline to throw on that game next year.
Yeah, you mentioned the 2022 guys again. Two recruiting guys are just kind of having fun here at this point. But Billy Schrouth, so I have a future cast pick in for the offensive lineman, top 100 player, Carson Hinsman, Joe Brunner. Those are three big Notre Dame Wisconsin battles. 22 offensive linemen, and then you just think. Other offensive or other players from Wisconsin that Notre Dame wanted that Wisconsin got. Hunter Wohler, the safety, Braylon Allen, another safety. Notre Dame was a finalist for those guys, and the Badgers got them. And certainly we could go down a list. But Notre Dame is in recruiting Wisconsin more in the past couple years. I almost say in a few years before. So yeah, it's I kind of wondered, is it a coincidence Notre Dame's playing Wisconsin back-to-back years and now they're recruiting more in there, or is it just there's a bunch more talent? Of course, I say back-to-back years. The 2020 game was canceled, but it is supposed to be rescheduled at some point. But John, appreciate you coming on here and talking about Jack Coan and Wisconsin Notre Dame recruiting battles.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me today.